I'm a physician here in Lake Jackson. I deliver babies for a living, but I also do an investment letter. It's called the Ron Paul Survival Report. I put that out on a monthly basis.
I've heard of that.
Which is a goal-oriented newsletter, but it's also expressing concern about surviving in this age of big government where there's a lot of taxes, a lot of regulations, and attacks on our personal liberties. I was concerned about this many years ago. Even in 1974, I had a lot of concern about this and advocated some of the things that they're talking about right now. In the Hartford Convention in 1814, 1815, they talked about serious secession. Nobody questioned it legally. Nobody questioned the issue of secession in 1814, 1815, this convention. But it was the Northern Yankee group, the Northeasterners, wanted to secede from the Union. It didn't come about, but it was never challenged intellectually, legally, or constitutionally whether or not they had the right to leave the Union.
Welcome back to The Ed Show. The Ron Paul campaign has landed the endorsement of a reverend whose beliefs are absolutely jaw-dropping. The Reverend Philip G. Kaiser thinks homosexuals should be executed. But the Paul campaign was thrilled to get Reverend Kaiser's endorsement, putting on their website, saying in a press release on Paul's website, "We welcome Reverend Kaiser's endorsement and the enlightening statements he makes on how Ron Paul's approach to government is consistent with Christian beliefs." But later, Paul's camp scrubbed the news of Kaiser's endorsement from its website. No explanation was given. It turns out Reverend Kaiser is in favor of what he calls biblical law, including the execution of homosexuals. He has written about it. As we have seen, he says, while many homosexuals would be executed, the threat of capital punishment can be restorative. Kaiser confirmed all of this when contacted and interviewed by Talking Points Memo. He said he didn't see much hope for it happening anytime soon. But he did say, under a Ron Paul presidency, states would be freed up to not have political correctness imposed on them.
So many of these savages, according to our statistics, that are murdering our people on a daily basis. And there's nobody in the legal system that would dare say, bring back the rope. Bring back the electric chair. Instead, they take our tax dollars and they feed these animals at the cost of our race. The immigration crisis that's being pushed upon us by the race traders of Washington, D.C. They don't care about our people. They're too concerned about the homosexual rights.
Help Ron Paul with a Franklin for Franklin, January the 17th.
What you need to do is attack their benefits. No free education, no free subsidies, no citizenship, no birthright citizenship.
This is your former secretary, Renee Hathaway. She says it was his newsletter and it was under his name, so he always got to see the final product. He would proof it. Some others saying they recall you sitting at your desk and proofing them, and one even said you met with Ed Crane, the head of the Cato Institute. At one point you acknowledged that the more out there some of these statements would be, the more likely you'd be to get subscribers.
What would be unconstitutional about giving the gold medal to Rosa Parks, a civil rights activist and leader that all of us are quite familiar with?
Well, you know, that wasn't easy for me because I think she's a real hero because I believe in civil disobedience and I believe peaceful change has come about that way. But I was dealing with the money. Why should I tax you to give her a medal? Do good by taking money from the people, that is not a precise authorization in the Constitution. So the principle is that you don't have this right to do it, but to say something good and to, you know, to honor people like that would be fine, but we ought to do it with our own money.
On the 40th anniversary of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, you said this on the floor of the House. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 did not improve race relations or enhance freedom. Now, you were not subject to segregation before the 1964 Civil Rights Act, so is it possible that you don't know or you don't understand that the removal of segregation was in fact an enhancement of freedom for African Americans who were not allowed to drink from the same drinking fountain as you were, who were not allowed to patronize certain restaurants, who were not allowed to do all sorts of things? Their freedom was very sharply restricted by law until that law. So how can you say that it did not enhance freedom?
this whole idea that an AIDS victim has AIDS victims' rights. This is this distorted idea about civil liberties. There's only one kind of rights. There's no such thing as minority rights or women's rights. There's only individual rights. But with AIDS, the businessman, the employer, has the right to protect himself if he wants. If it's his desire, he can sever the contract or not enter the contract and say, look, I don't want to deal with you. You know, it's so bizarre today that some of the laws in the court rulings indicate that if you have hepatitis, you're not allowed to work in a restaurant. But if you have AIDS, you can't fire the person.
I have a bill called We the People's Act, and this addresses several subjects: prayer in school, the marriage issue, as well as the abortion issue, which literally just takes it away from the federal courts, which means any state could pass a law passing a prohibition. It could not be heard in a federal court. This would go into effect immediately, and it occurs only with majority vote of the Congress. So don't give up on that method.
Ron Paul believes that we must secure our borders now. He believes that a nation without secure borders is no nation at all. It makes no sense to fight terrorists abroad when our own front door is left unlocked, just as we believe. Ron Paul believes that our privacy and personal liberty is at stake, and that the biggest threat to our privacy, sadly enough, is our own government, just as we believe. Whatever organization you belong to, remember first and foremost that you're a white nationalist. Then put aside your differences with one another and work together. Work together to strive to get someone in the Oval Office who agrees with much of what we want for our future. Look at the man. Look at the issues. Look at our future. Vote for Ron Paul 2008.